In breaking news, rapist and murderer Tambo Bester has been rearrested in Tanzania. It's believed his partner, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, was also apprehended. The pair have been on the run since his escape became public last month. It is also believed he had died in a prison fire, but in fact he had escaped in May last year. Our senior reporter Silindelo Masikane has the latest and joins us now live. Sli, you have the latest for us. It's also believed that Dr. Nandipha was also with Tambo Bester and was also arrested last night.
That's the information we're getting from some of our sources, Heidi, that about 3 people were arrested in Arusha in Tanzania last night for being in the country illegally, and they were then detained at the Arusha police station, and it's understood that at least 2 of those 3 people are believed to be Bester as well as Dr. Nandipha. That's the information we have at this stage, and we do understand that authorities in South Africa are preparing to essentially take the nation into its confidence in terms of the information that they have at hand. But we have verified with a number of our sources within the police, as well as those who have been working in the investigations. And so far, everyone says that positively ID'd is certainly Tambo Bester. We're still trying to confirm that second person being Dr. Nandipha, but it does seem as though that they were both apprehended in Tanzania.
Yes, Lee, you had earlier told us that there were some reports and private investigators that were following the movements of Dr. Nandipha. You've been covering the story extensively. Maybe just take us through what possibly led to this arrest. There was a raid at one of the Hyde Park hideouts of Dr. Nandipha and Tambo Bester.
So no, we know that in essence, the manhunt for Tambo Bester in particular began 3 weeks ago when it was exposed through an expose by Ground Up that in fact Tambo Bester was alive and well, and that for the past 10 months he's been hiding out in Hyde Park with his girlfriend Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. And it does seem as though that at least 7 days after his escape on the 3rd of May 2022, a Mercedes-Benz was left on the Zimbabwean side of the Beitbridge border around January of this year, and that is at this point understood to have perhaps been a getaway car for the two to disappear at some point. They were not expecting that the cover of him having died in the police cell was going to be exposed. And so police as well as private investigators have been hard at work essentially trying to figure out exactly where they might be, where they could be hiding, or where they may have and whether they had skipped the country. Already as early as last week, we were already getting indications that Bester had fled the country, but that there was a possibility that Dr. Nandipha was still in the country. Subsequently, this week, we saw a number of developments where we saw a police raid at that Hyde Park hideout. At that point, we understood that new information had been obtained that perhaps there were people who worked there that may have been buried at the property, but we also don't know exactly what kind of evidence that may have indicated to the police that perhaps Bester had fled to Tanzania, and perhaps that is how authorities there were alerted to be on the lookout for somebody who looks like Tambo Bester. We've seen a number of photos that do confirm, in fact, that Bester has been arrested in Tanzania because the person certainly looks like him. And also this week, we saw a parliamentary sitting where G4S security that was running Mangaung prison at the time was supposed to account in terms of officials who have been implicated within G4S security who may have assisted Tambo Bester. We know that they've been summoned to Parliament next week. We also saw Police Minister Bheki Cele in a sit-down with Dr. JJ Tabane where, of course, we put him in a corner, in essence, to try and give us more details around their investigations. For the past 3 weeks, it's been almost like pulling water out of a stone to try and get any updates. Police saying that they need to be given space to investigate. Detectives need time, to piece together the information that they're receiving, and also trying to be careful not to give up too much information, because they are well aware that those who were working with Bester himself, Dr. Nandipa, are probably trying to get any kind of information that they can through the media as well. But Police Minister Bheki did confirm to Dr. Tabane that a breakthrough was imminent, and this was just days ago. And it does seem as though that information has, of course, been confirmed. So we are awaiting a press briefing later on this afternoon by the National Police Commissioner, who's going to then give us more details around what they know about the arrest in Tanzania. And in fact, Heidi, what I've been trying to do, because I think now that we know where he is, it's now bringing into question issues around our borders and how did Bester and Dr. Nandipa get out of the country, because, I mean, this is not the first time we've had somebody who not only was arrested or facing the law skip the country. We saw it with Bushiri as well, who's now living his life in Malawi as if he does not have a case to answer to here in South Africa. So it does seem as though there are at least 9 ways to get out of South Africa to Tanzania by plane, bus, or car, or a train. So if they happen to fly out of here, they would have had to take a flight from Johannesburg to Dar es Salaam, or through to Zanzibar, or from Bloemfontein to Dar es Salaam as well, or fly from the Eastern Cape. And if they took a bus, then it would have taken them about 2 days. If they took a car, it would have also taken them about 44 hours to get out of the country. So now we're just trying to figure out exactly which route they took to get out of South Africa, meaning that that particular border post is going to perhaps have to be investigated to find out exactly how they got through.
And when they got through, Slee, I think that's going to be imperative, because did they both flee South Africa together? When did this happen? Did it happen as reports were coming out that he was spotted? Did it happen when correctional services confirmed that Thabo Bester in fact did not die in May last year, when it's alleged he committed suicide when his cell caught a flame? Just for clarity purpose here, Slee, we have received a notice. The Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, and Justice Minister Ronald Lamola will at 2 o'clock be updating the nation on the progress of the manhunt of convicted murder and rapist Thabo Bester, who escaped from custody at the Mangaung Correctional Facility. That's set to take place at 2 o'clock today. We will, of course, be bringing you that live. But Slee, you have, of course, been putting immense pressure as well on government officials to get to the bottom of this. You've been doing exceptional work, and maybe just take us through to perhaps what Thabo Bester's mother told you. Part of that interview that you did with her, she spoke to you about how Dr. Nandipa went to her and said that she was married to Thabo Bester and they have 2 children together, and she needs to confirm the DNA. Meanwhile, Thabo Bester was not dead.
So, I mean, it was quite interesting to hear from Bester's mother around the circumstances that now have led to what she believes putting her own life at risk, because how she was dragged into this whole saga was for her initially having been told that Bester had died in the cell, and then finding out subsequently that there was somebody who wanted to cremate his body. That is when she then contacted the police to try and stop this cremation from taking place, saying that she is the parent of Bester and therefore she wants to be afforded the opportunity to bury her child, and saying that she wasn't aware at all that Bester had been married or that he had kids. And she says that the conversation she had with Nandipa when she came to see her is the fact that Nandipa says that, she was at some point going to try and get in touch with her, but that Bester and herself had been married, that they had 2 kids, and that is why she felt, obligated as his wife to do as she wishes with his remains. But she says that she just simply was not going to allow a stranger to bury her child, and that, you know, she had really high hopes that Bester was going to leave prison as a changed man, as somebody who was going to be rehabilitated and be able to be reintegrated into society. But, you know, she says that it does seem as though he has, you know, a lot of issues and requires help in order for him to, you know, stop living or leading this life of crime. And she says that she was really shocked and surprised to hear that he had escaped from prison despite being told or being informed that he had died. So she says that as a family, they believe that their lives are at risk, and they actually are quite afraid of him themselves. But she is hoping that perhaps, you know, he can change someday, one day. So I think we'll have more in terms of the processes I think that we're going to see unfolding moving forward, Heidi, at that briefing at 2 o'clock, because if my understanding is correct, then some extradition applications are going to have to be made.
Certainly, and hopefully history does not repeat itself, because in this country it's clearly very difficult to get those that are accused back into the country, for example, the Guptas and the Bushiri. So let's see how this one unfolds. Slee, thank you so much for that comprehensive update. We'll definitely be checking in with you before 2 o'clock, as that briefing is set to be underway with Police Minister Bheki Cele and Justice Minister Ronald Lamola.